Welcome to the channel. In this video I'm going to talk about the Leagues of Votann lore. The book's available for pre-order now, thanks to Games Workshop for sending it through to me for review. And as soon as I got it, I was very interested to find out who they are, where they're from, because the Leagues of Votann, a brand new faction which is unknown in the 40k verse. Well, it's here now. So let's hit this topic as quickly as I can. So, Leagues of Votann. The way to think about the Leagues of Votann is Votann equals Ancestor Cores, and Ancestor Cores equals Votann. It's not exactly that, but they're very much interchangeable. The Leagues of the Ancestor Cores. And to find out what the Ancestor Cores are, you have to go way back in human history. So, way back 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 years ago, way before the time of the Emperor, when Terra was no longer Terra, when Earth was Earth, mankind spread out across the stars. And mankind brought them with them STC machines to terraform other planets, and it was the golden age of technology, or even the dark age of technology, depending on which historical record that you're listening to. During this time, mankind had the power to mine stars and crack open planets. We had our war against AI, we had our war against the Terminators, Skynet, or the Matrix, and that's why AI in the Imperium is now called Abominable Intelligence. We had our war against the Men of Clay, the Men of Iron, the Men of Gold. We had our wars against genetically engineered super creatures. It was the vast age of expansion for the Imperium, and we set up colonies many light years away. Editing Winters here. Didn't mean to say the Imperium, I meant to say mankind in general. It was the golden age of human expansion. Right, back to the script. Some hive cities, some ancient hive cities in the Imperium now, not alien, sorry, but down at the very core of them was probably once a living STC that stamp pressed itself into existence and terraformed the planet and made it fit for human habitation. And then we have the kin. The Leagues of Votann call themselves the kin and the Iron King. The Iron King are their abominable intelligence, their AI that lives with them and has always been a part of them. The kin and the Iron Kin both have equal rights and are both part of kin society. This is a species of clone-bred humans that set out from humanity a long time ago and straight into the galactic core. Not only are they bred for the galactic core, but they can excel, they can live there. They are designed to exploit the galactic core. It says in the lore that back in the day they would siphon planets, stars from the inside out and mine them of their plasma, cut planets in half, and from the molten rock take the minerals and the precious metals that they need. They're designed to live in the galactic core, this clone-bred, genetically engineered super race, which are a lot more resilient than regular humans. They have denser bones, they have higher white cell counts, and they can see in all sorts of spectra, including the infrared. Their eyesight is a broad spectra. And they live in the galactic core. Do I keep saying claw? I mean core. That's why we haven't seen them for some time. Now, the galactic core is one of those places in 40k where there isn't actually much lore about. It's always been assumed that it's been impenetrable. And also in this book, it does deal with the fact that the kin's greatest enemy is the orc, and the most numerous, because orcs being orcs just keep pushing into the galactic core. They're aware of tomb worlds waking up deep in the galactic core, and they're also aware of the Bane, which is what they give the name for the Tyranids pushing into the galactic core. But it's a largely unexplored area of space. It's assumed, therefore, that the Great Crusade never got anywhere near it. When the Emperor was rampaging across the galaxy and destroying or uniting all the lost tribes of man, they didn't go into the galactic claw again, look, because it's an impenetrable mess. And the Great Crusade was only a couple of 100 years, so that's a heartbeat, that's a blink of time in galactic space. And I imagine while all this was going on, the kin just retreated to their fortresses, stayed well inside, stayed out of the way, and therefore there was no interaction during the time of the Horus Heresy with the kin. But that's not to say that the rest of the universe hasn't interacted with the kin. Some of them go, some exploratory fleets go out into the wider galaxy, or prospecting fleets, or for other reasons they go out into the wider galaxy, put it that way. And other species have known them by other names. The Demiurge is a name that pops up. Squats is a name that the Imperials use for them, and there's a squat presence on Necromunda, for example. But there's other names that they've been called, such as the Gnostari or the Kreg, but they always call themselves the kin and the Iron Kin, a clone race produced by machines. They come out of crucibles, and they are stabled and varied. Their genetic code is stable and varied once they come out of these crucibles. Their resilience also extends to their souls. Their souls shine dimly amidst the tides of the warp. There is no uncontrolled mutation amongst the kin. In that way, they are similar to the Tau, which makes them largely uncorruptible by chaos. So not only have they been able to withstand the trials and tribulations of all the Xenos that have been pushing at them for all this time, the Galactic Core, but they've been able to withstand genetic mutation and the touch of chaos. So tens of thousands of years ago, a race of clone-bred superhumans went into the Galactic Core and exploited it, and was never unified or destroyed during the Great Crusade, and have been largely cut off from the universe, from the rest of the galaxy since then. So the smallest denomination of kin society are Kindreds, and these are family or very close family, and they can be towns or they can be as large as space stations. Remember, they're clone-engineered species born out of vats, born out of these crucibles. So those are the Kindreds, and from their very earliest days, the Kindreds formed into leagues of Votann, or leagues of ancestor cores. Each kindred, each league has a ancestor core, and these ancestor cores are ancient machine intelligences, supercomputers, STCs, essentially, so complex and powerful that they would almost seem supernatural to other races. They have the wealth of lore, the history, the tech of the kin species. They are godlike, and so much so are these ancestor cores so powerful that they even shine in the warp and are used by void bearers as localized beacons as they jump from place to place, because the Leagues of Votann, or the Leagues of the Ancestor Cores, do have void tech. They have Geller fields which protect them from the warp, and they call them Geller ramparts. They're better than Imperial tech. And their warp jumps, their warp drives, they do short warp jumps using their Geller ramparts to protect them, and that way they can move around space and cross thousands of light years in short periods of time. It's slower than Imperial tech, but it's much, much, much more accurate, and stops a ship appearing 10,000 light years away or 10,000 years into the future. These ancestor cores, these are the Votan, and leagues formed around the Votan, the ancestor cores, right at the very start. There's different leagues, such as the Greater Thurian League or the Kronos Hegemony League, and these are all leagues of Votan, leagues of ancestor cores. Some are warlike, some are more explorers, and those in direct possession of an ancestor core are called the Leagues of Votann. There are other cores, rarer, smaller, that are not ancestor core, and there are other leagues that are not part of the Leagues of Votann, but they're still kin. They still form kindreds. And that's what the Leagues of the Votann are. The ones that are Leagues of the Votann equals Leagues of Ancestor Cores. Is it AI? Is it super intelligence? Is it STCs? It's all very blurry, because it says the kin belong to the Votann and the Votann belong to the kin. One of the criticisms that I heard early on is that they're a clone race which have been genetically manipulated and enslaved by a super intelligent AI. But the Leagues of Votann are not as dark as that. The Votann belong to the kin, and the kin belong to the Votann. They've grown around each other like two trees whose trunks have wrapped round each other over time. And the ancestor cores have changed over time, and the kin have changed over time. The ancestor cores, the Votan, have actually evolved. Some of them have quirks and personalities now. They're all very ponderous, and they have aged. They are more decrepit with time, and some of their ancient histories are lost and lost and lost in reproduced, data stamped memes, and they've become almost senile, some of the cores. And it does mention in the book that some of them become stupid. Some of them essentially die. What happens is they've got a techno race of dudes who talk to their forge masters, their ironkin. They talk to the ancestor cores through things called fanes. And these fanes are technological structures or nodes through which they interact with the Votan, and nodes through which the Votan interacts with the kin. They interact at these fanes. And it does mention that some leagues have had their fanes go stupid and just fall apart. And in other cases, some fanes which were not considered ancestor cores suddenly become alive as though they were an ancestor core, because these ancestor cores, these Votans, are living, thinking machine minds. And yeah, the two species, they're bred for each other. They're bred with each other. They were created together to go out there and exploit the Galactic core. And they've done it very well. Another way to think about the name, the Leagues of Votann, is to think of it as the Leagues of the Gods. The Leagues of the Gods, because they're machine cores. The ancestor cores are ancient machine intelligences, supernatural, godlike. The Leagues of Votann are not religious. But they do have lots of customs. They do have lots of, just like any other species has. But they're not religious, and they don't see them as gods themselves. But they do realize that other species might see these as gods. They have no urge, no desire to be any part of the Imperium, and see it as a nascent, younger race, a corrupt race. And they're very aware of what they would do, the Imperium would do, if they got their hands on one of these ancestor cores. But of course, you can't get into the Galactic core. Though some species, as I mentioned, have tried, but you can't live in there for any length of time unless you're a member of the Leagues of Gods, their ancestor cores. So they've been living and working and hiding away in the very heart of the galaxy, and there's billions of them. They're doing very well, thank you very much. And they sometimes come out in exploratory fleets, or they sometimes act as mercenaries for other species. But and they have no psychers, but because their souls shine dimly amidst the tides of the warp. But they're clones. They're made with different clone skin or clone skins to fit into society as best as possible. So they'll breed ones for war, they'll breed ones for this. Some will have extra muscle, some will have XYZ. They're varied and populous, and no psychers, but some will be born with psychoactive clone skin or psychoactive clone skin. And their very flesh is psychoactive. It doesn't make them psychers, but then it says that they can use barrier tech to interact with the warp. So you've got to have the right skin, and then you can use barrier tech, and then that barrier tech manipulates warp. So there's, as you can see, many fail-safes between them and warp space, which has kept them safe from demons for all this time. So they're not squats, they're not space dwarves, and they're not humans either. They're a clone species from humanity's distant past, which are bred to live in the Galactic core. Their tech is incredible, which allows them not only to survive there, but to thrive in the Galactic core. They are pragmatic, they are atheists, but they are bound in culture and tradition. And there doesn't seem that much about them which is very grim dark, very brutalistic. There doesn't seem that much about them which is very 40k. They don't fit in the same way as other species. To my mind, this is Games Workshop signaling that this species is classic sci-fi. They already gave us the Tau, the species that is very Gundam. So if there are lots of collectors out there that want to play with Japanese Super Samurai robots, they can play the Tau. They gave us the Starcraft species, the alien species, the Tyranids, the galactic tsunami consuming everything in its path. And now they're giving us galactic superhumans, sci-fi superhumans, which aren't really that grimdark or aren't really that nasty, but are perfect for people who just want to play with a classic sci-fi species. And I haven't got a problem with that in general, that's fine. However, most people are attracted to Warhammer 40k because of the grimdark, because of the brutality, because everything is turned up all the way to 11. If they were to bring along an entire new species that was much more brutalistic and more quirky than the Leagues of Votann, I think they would sell better. But this is the first pass. Lots of things in this codex. Well, all the units in this codex are small. There's not very many of them. What I mean to say is there isn't a great deal of variety at the moment. This is the first pass at the Leagues of Votann, the Leagues of the Gods. And just like the Death Guard and other factions, when they came out for the first time, they didn't have much to choose from. But I hope to see some divergence later on when the Leagues of Votann Part 2 comes out. I mean, they have Iron Kin. They have the AI walking around with them. There should be fast attack and heavy support choices. There should be machines of war that they bring along with them, not just berserkers, not just terminators, not just transports. I would love to see Iron Kin constructs that are designed for war. Things like miniature dreadnoughts or miniature gun platforms which can walk around and operate on their own. And at the moment there's none of this in here. So unfortunately the feeling that one gets when you step away from the book from the first time is that Games Workshop played this one safe and less grimdark than before, which is perhaps what they had to do by introducing a new species to the galaxy. But I look forward to seeing where this species goes in the future. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that lore review. Hope that answers lots of questions. Happy wargaming.